Hello and welcome to Professor Pincushion. We have a special tutorial because we are collaborating with Tiffany Windsor of Cool to Craft to bring you some festive ideas for your tablescape that's perfect for the holidays. I'm going to be showing you how to make an easy table runner that's perfect for your fall decor or a rustic looking tablescape. Using burlap, lace, and ribbon, you can quickly put together a simple yet elegant look to impress your guest. Also, check out Cool to Craft's tutorial on the burlap looped flowers. This technique comes from the vintage Aleen's archives and the looped effect is super easy to create. Tiffany's video tutorial takes you step by step in creating these flowers in several sizes. But first, let's get started on creating our table runner. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the supplies we're going to need in order to make our table runner. So we have some burlap and then we have some lace. Now if you're wondering how much you're going to need of each in order to make your runner, it really depends on how long and how wide that runner is going to be. So for this particular case, we're just going to use my measurements and I have them written down. So out of my burlap, I need a piece that's 60 inches by 15, and out of the lace, I need a piece that's 52 by 10 and 5/8 inches. Out of both of these, they're 45 inches in width on the bolt, so I cut a piece that's 1 2/3. That's for both of them, 1 2/3 of this one, 1 2/3 on this one. If you make your table runner longer than mine, then you're just going to have to figure out how much fabric you're going to need. Next, we're going to need some ribbon. So this ribbon, you're going to need, if you use my measurements, you're going to need about 4 yards. I purchased this spool and it has 6 yards on there, so that's plenty. The width of this ribbon is 3/16, and you can see it has a little bit of a decorative edge. But this is your runner, so you can use whatever ribbon you want to use, and it can also be a different width if you want it to be that. You also need some all-purpose thread. I like to use my sewing gauge, sewing scissors, some straight pins, and then the only thing not shown here is our sewing machine. Here's a little trick for cutting out burlap. Because it has such an open weave and you can really see the threads that are going through it, it's actually very easy to cut out on the grain line and then cross grain as well. So what you can do is you can just measure where you want to cut. So we're just going to use this. Okay, this is my starting point, and then I also want to cut about, we'll say right here. I'm just going to use my marker just to mark it. I'm going to grab a seam ripper and I'm very carefully going to start pulling out the thread in that one section, and I'm pulling out the same thread. You're just trying to get enough so you have enough to grab onto. And once you have enough, hold your fabric down and pull this thread out. And you can see the space now where we obviously pulled out a thread. And I already did the same thing here. So now when I'm cutting it, I can just follow along in the same spot, and my burlap is going to be straight. And you can do it this way, and you can also do it this way as well. So this is a nice trick to use to making sure that when you cut out your burlap piece, you're cutting it out straight. Once everything is cut out, we can then start assembling our table runner. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the burlap piece and I'm going to sew a zigzag stitch around the full perimeter of the burlap runner. Now this is going to be for creating the fringe that's going to be around the edge. So I'm going to stitch 3/8 of an inch away from the edge, and that's going to be all 4 edges of the table runner. So that's going to give me 3/8 of an inch fringe, because it'll start to fray after a while, but the zigzag is going to prevent it from fraying any point past that. So if you want a wider fringe, maybe you want a fringe that's 1 inch, then you sew 1 inch away from the edge. If you want a narrower fringe, then you can sew closer to the edge. It really depends on what you want to do. But for my purposes, I'm sewing 3/8 of an inch around all 4 edges. So for this, I selected just a regular zigzag stitch that my machine has, and I made sure to pick matching all-purpose thread because I don't really want it to blend in with my fabric. Now for the corners, I'm going to show you what I do when I come up to the corners. So I'm just going to stitch my 3/8 until I get it to be about that distance away from the edge, so about 3/8 of an inch distance away from that edge. Let's do a couple more stitches. We'll try that. So I leave my needle in the fabric, I lift my foot, and then I rotate the fabric. And I check to see if it's lining up with my 3/8 inch mark, and it is. So now I can just continue sewing in this direction. So that way you can kind of get a sharp corner with your stitches. Next, you're going to take your lace piece and you're going to place it so it's directly in the center of your burlap piece. If you're using burlap that has a print like mine does, you're going to want to make sure that the print is right side facing up, or that you can see that printed side. So the lace goes on that side, and again, you want to place it in the center. So from the short edges here, it's going to go in about 4¼ inches. So I'm going to make that adjustment. And then from the long sides over here, it should be about 2¼ inches on both sides. And I'm just going to use my sewing gauge to keep measuring it. That way I can make sure that it's actually straight and not kind of slanting, and that is also placed in the center. So once you have it the way that you want it, go ahead, grab your straight pins. We're going to pin it into place, so all around all 4 sides of the lace panel, and then we're going to take it to our machine because we're going to baste it into place. For the basting stitch, I'm just doing the longest stitch on my machine. Now, you don't have to worry about doing any back stitching. This is just a temporary stitch in order to keep our lace attached to our burlap for the next step. Next, we're going to pin our ribbon trim on. Now, it's really up to you. If you want to use it and you want to completely cover the edge of the lace, you can do it like that. I kind of like a little bit more of a rustic look, so I'm going to actually place it a little bit on the inside of my lace here. So about the edge of the ribbon to the edge of the lace is about 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch. I'm just really going to eyeball it to see what I like. And it just so happens my basting stitch is 1/4 inch away from the edge of the lace. So when I lay my ribbon down like this, it pretty much covers it up. So if you cover up your basting stitch and you can't even see it, then you don't even have to take your basting stitch out when you finish. So I'm going to pin this around the perimeter of my lace, and we'll get a little bit closer to show you what I do for the corners here. So I'm trying to keep my ribbon as a single strand, not cutting it. So in order to make this corner and turn it into the other direction, I'm going to take my ribbon, I'm going to fold it up just a little bit, maybe about 1/8 inch. So now it's folded, and I'm just pressing it down with my nail here to keep that fold into place. I'm going to grab the other side of the ribbon, and I'm just going to rotate it. Make sure I don't get caught there on the lace. And then I'm just going to pin this corner here. And then I'm able to continue on going into the other direction. After you pin on your ribbon, go ahead and do a zigzag stitch right down the center of that ribbon. You can see I'm actually using a matching all-purpose thread to my ribbon, and in my bobbin I went ahead and kept the same thread I was using to match the burlap fabric. So on the back it's not going to be as noticeable. And you're just going to go all the way around all 4 sides, just attaching the ribbon to your lace panel. The last thing we need to do, which I think is the most fun thing to do, is to do the fraying around the edge of our table runner. So all you're doing, we have our zigzag stitching that we did, and you can't really see mine, but it's right about here. So all of the strands in the burlap that are running parallel to your zigzag stitch, you're just going to pull out. And you'll only be able to get as far as your zigzag stitch. So there's my stitch there, so I'd only pull out about that much. So you can see it's just creating this frayed look. And you could do it on 2 sides, or you can do it on all 4 sides. I'm going to do it on all 4 sides, so I'd also do it over here as well. Here you can see our finished table runner. It came out wonderful, and it was super simple. In order to complete the look, please go check out Tiffany Windsor at Cool to Craft. Not only will she show you how to make the burlap looped flowers, but Cool to Craft has over 900 DIY craft how-to videos that will be sure to inspire you. All you have to do is click on the link to check out Cool to Craft. New tutorials are released weekly, so please subscribe to be notified of the next release. Make sure to check out our other videos and visit ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 200 sewing video tutorials, including our exclusive premium content. Our premium membership is only $5 a month for unlimited access and only available at ProfessorPincushion.com. Also, don't forget to download our mobile app for videos on the go. Thanks for watching.